Hello everyone, today I'm going to discuss about describing a REST API using Swagger specification, and using that description I'm going to create a API in Amazon Web Service. Before moving on, let me show you high level information about the REST API that I'm going to create. Currently I'm using Swagger 2.0 version for describing my REST API, and if you look at the API name, my first API, so this is the API name that I'm going to provide to my API, and the host, so host is www.myfirstapi.com. so if you want, you can change your name, and whatever the name you want, like you can provide to your host name as host name. And the base path, so this is a base path that I'm going to provide to my API. And the schemes are nothing but like protocols like HTTP or HTTPS. And so in my API I'm going to have two methods. One is get method, and another one is also a get method. So if you look at these paths, so one path is the user and another path is a admin. Okay, so in the user path, okay, so using this path I'm going to get the list of user by passing, I mean not the list of user, I'm going to get a user, so which is specific to this ID. So this ID I'm going to pass as a query param, and so it will produce a application or JSON format as a, I mean it's a response. So responses, so 200 and the 400 is nothing but bad request, and the 200 is success, and the 404 is a method not allowed. And if you look at the another method slash admin, means based on that ID I'm going to get the admin details. So if you look at the difference between this path and this path, and in this path I'm going to have a one path param, so that's why this path param is appended to this URL itself. So this path param name is ID here, and here this user, this query param name is ID. So with this one method I'm going to have a query param, and another method I'm going to have a path param, and remaining thing is the same, like produce application JSON as your response, and the response is 200, 400 and the 404. And if you come down, and so let me give you some of the details about the Swagger. So before moving on, okay, Swagger is a specification for documenting a REST API. It specifies the format of a URL, a method, a representation to describe a REST API. So Swagger can be written in two structures. One is a JSON and another one is a YAML structure. So I think most of the developers are aware of the structure of a JSON. Okay, and so some of the people are not aware of this YAML structure. YAML is nothing but ain't markup language, means it's not like markup language, so it is easy to understand when compared with a JSON. Okay, so two syntaxes we should not forget. One is an hyphen represents array elements, so each element represents an object. Okay, and another syntax is two spaces. Okay, now represents the element of an object, means I'm going to have a one element of an object. So how to provide that element? So using two spaces. So another one is like, as I told, so hyphen represents elements of an array. So I'm going to use Swagger Hub for describing my REST API. So this is a Swagger Hub, and if you want to use this Swagger Hub for describing your REST API, make sure you have an account in Swagger Hub. Okay, so this is a default description, I mean the pet store. Okay, so pet store is a simple API by default this Swagger Hub provide. Okay, I don't want to use all this information, so let me delete all this information. Okay, so as always, first element represents a Swagger version. So let me type Swagger. So version is a 2.0. So currently the version of a Swagger is a 3.0. So if you want to use Swagger 3.0, so this first element is a OpenAPI. So since I'm going to use the version 2.0, the first element in my description is a Swagger, and the next element is info. Okay, so Info means the information about your REST API. Okay, so what is the current version and what is the title and the description, the terms of services and the contact, a name, URL and the email. So I'm not going to provide all this information. I'm going to provide the title and the description and the version of my API. So that's why I'm removing remaining attributes. Okay, so the version, I'm going to provide the version as 1.0.0 and the title. So title is my first API. Okay, copy this and paste here, and the description. Okay, and here provide the details about my college or my office. Okay, and another important element here is, if you look at here, the host is one of the important element in the Swagger specification. So what is the purpose of this host? Means where this REST API is going to run. So that information you have to provide. So for example, like you can use any information, that's not a problem, but runtime it will take this the host in which your API is running. Okay, so let me copy this and type host and paste this one. Okay, so another, just you can use the control space. Okay, and the base path, a base path. So what is the base path is slash and v1, I means version 1, and my first API. Okay, and the another element is schemas, I mean schemes. Okay, so okay, the schemes represents a protocol, like what type of protocol that you are going to use, whether HTTP or HTTPS. So the schemes objects are going to have a element of type array. So as I told how to provide the elements of type an array using a hyphen symbol, right? So just type hyphen, so it's automatically displaying. And if you want to go with the HTTP, just enter, or HTTPS, that is up to you. Just I'm going to use a HTTP, that's it. If you want to, you are going to provide the HTTPS also, just again enter and again enter the space and again space, control space. Okay, so I'm not going to use both. Okay, and another element. Okay, so I have provided the Swagger version and information about my REST API, and like version, title, description, and the host, base path, and the schemes. And go back to your this documentation and the paths. Okay, since I'm going to have a two methods, like two get methods, one and the one of the path of one method is a user and the path of another method is a slash admin slash id. Okay, so before writing this I have to give the a paths element. Okay, just type paths. Okay, so I have to provide the path user and enter. So you have to provide two spaces, 1 and 2. Okay, and type, what is the type of method? Get, control space. Okay, so currently it is not displaying. Okay, some error is there. Okay, so I missed the colon here, and enter and two spaces and control space. Okay, displaying the get. Okay, so by default it is it takes all the required information about the this get method. So summary, description, the response. Okay, so first let me provide the a summary, get users, and description, get user details by giving id or user id. Okay, so it's not a users, it's a user. Okay, so response is 200 and the description is okay. Okay, before this going to responses, let me provide some of the information like so as I told, this method is going to have a one query param, so I have to provide that information first. Okay, so this summary, a description and responses are the elements of your a get method. So another element is parameters. So what is the purpose of parameters is the parameters element describes, I mean provides the information about the whether it's a path param, I mean you are going to send the data in a path param or a query param or in a body itself. So those information this parameters element provides. So just enter and two spaces. Okay, so this parameters is going to have elements of type array. So how to represent the array element using iPhone. Okay, and the space control space. Okay, so in means it's a input. So what type of input is like you are going to provide, like it's a query param or it's a path param, so you have to tell that information here first. Okay, so for this method I'm going to have a query parameter. Okay, and then enter and control space again. So I have to provide the name of query param. Okay, using the name element, name is id, and again control space. Okay, so it's not displaying anything. Okay, so just move it to right side and come down and control space again. Okay, so type of this I mean id type. Okay, again control space, it is a number. Okay, so these are the information that I'm going to provide for my query param. Okay, next is, so you are producing some data, so in which format, so we have to provide that information also. Produce. Okay, and the element of this produce elements, the type of the elements is array type. Okay, and enter. Okay, so we have to type application slash JSON. Okay, so let me go back to this documentation, and the response is 200 and the 400 404. So this is up to you. If you want to provide the information about these responses HTTP codes, you can, or if you want to go with the 200, just that's up to you. So I'm not going to give any other informations like HTTP information other than this 200. So one path is completed and another path is a admin. So let me copy the same, this user, copy and paste it at same level. Okay, so let me change it to admin. Okay, and the parameters, this is not a query, this is the path. Okay, and if you are going to provide the path here, the name of the path param is a id. So as per this document you have to provide this information as well. Okay, slash flower braces id. So it is currently showing the error. So errors you can look at here. So schema errors, slash admin slash id get parameters of 0 should not have additional parameters. Additional properties it type in name. Okay, so since this is a path param, it is a mandatory, right? So we have to provide that element as well. Okay, so required true. Okay, so error gone. Okay, so this is a admin and this is a user. Okay, so let me copy this, control A, control C, and go back to your API gateway and click on the create API. Okay, you should not take a new API, so you have to develop your new API. So if you go with this approach, if you want to going to use a Swagger, already file is already available, you can import from the Swagger. So I didn't save my file at all, so I copied the content, so that's why I'm selecting this last option. Okay, first let me delete this. Delete. Okay, I think it's not deleting, so let me use this option. Okay, so select a Swagger file. So I didn't save that Swagger file itself, so let me paste here. Okay, and click on the import. Okay, so my API has been created. So API name is my first API, and it has a two paths. One is a slash user and another path is a slash admin. It has an path param slash id. So if you look at the difference between these two paths, admin has one path param and this user don't have. Okay, so the next step is we have to get the information from this admin path and as well as the user path, and we have to send some response to a client. Okay, so first let me test this user. So click on this get and this integration sub. So I'm not going to use any of these functions like lambda function, HTTP or AWS services. Just I'm going to use this mark. Okay, click on this save. Okay, so just click on this integration response and expand this. Okay, body mapping template. So in body mapping template I'm going to send some data. So I fetch the ID value from my URL and sending it back to a user. Okay, so click this application.json. Okay, so I have to type this response here since I'm going to produce my data in the application.json format. Okay, ID. So how to get the param value from URL? Okay, slash, I mean a dollar symbol, input dot params of, so what is the param ID? ID. Okay, and the comma and name colon, just type simple name Ashok. Okay, just copy it and come down and click on the save. So it is saved. Again click on the save here as well. Okay, so method execution and click on this test. Okay, so if you look at this query strings, it has a one query param, that is nothing but a ID, because of you have mentioned this query param in your Swagger specification. Okay, so what the value that you are going to pass it to server? I'm going to provide 100. Okay, come down and click on the test. Okay, so some internal server we are getting, so we have to check that. Okay, so we have to find out what is the issue. Okay, so string colon request query string. Okay, so let me go back to a integration response and expand this, come down, body mapping templates and click on the application.json. So ID input.params. Oh, I have missed one double quotes here. Okay, so come down and click on the save and click on this save as well. Okay, come back to method execution and click on the test again. Okay, come down and click the test. How success? So you are getting the response since you are passing the 100 and again it is returning back to your client. Okay, so let me change it to 1 or 2 and come down and click on the test again. So you are getting 1 or 2 and the name is Ashok. So our user method is successfully working. So let me click on this admin again, click on this get, and we have to first integrate with any function. So just as usual, like I'm going to integrate with mark, click on the save, and first let me complete this integration response. Expand this body mapping template and application.json. Okay, so paste here. So I had copied this one earlier. Okay, So let me change it to my name. Okay, and click on, or otherwise my name is path. Save it. Okay, or before that we have to save this one. So save it and save this as well. Come back to method execution and click on the test. So if you look at the difference between this slash user path and slash admin path, it was asking it was displaying a query, okay, as ID, and here it is a path. So if you difference here, this ID is grouped inside your flavor basis. Okay, so it means it tells that you are going to give the information to your path param. Okay, so let me give 110 and come down and click on the test here. Okay, so you are getting the successful response. ID is 110 since you have provided that value in the path param, and the name is, my name is a path. Okay, let me change it to 111 and click on the test. Okay, so you are getting a 111 on my name path. So it is successfully working. So this is how you have to describe your REST API, and using that Swagger description you can create your own API in a Amazon Web Service. So thank you and thanks for watching this video.